Well, welcome to all of our viewers. For those of you I've not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Jeff Adams. I'm the president of Marathon Tours and Travel. That's a role that I've enjoyed for over 4 years after having spent about 10 years as a happy client. And if you're not familiar with Marathon Tours and Travel, in addition to our sponsorship of the Boston Marathon and coordinating the vast majority of the hotel rooms for runners and their supporters, we also have helped runners explore all 7 continents for over 40 years, with currently 40 races on the calendar. And joining me today is a good friend of Marathon Tours and me personally, and somebody that I always find as a source of inspiration, Tony to his friends, Reed. And Tony, as always, I enjoy spending time with you. What a difference a year makes, though. If you think about last year in the context of the Boston Marathon, I had the pleasure of running again after a few years layoff, and then quickly joining you and the National Black Marathoners Association for your annual Boston meet, greet, and celebration. This year we were planning to reconnect, and things got postponed, and then they got postponed again, and now they're virtual. So in the context of Boston, a lot has changed. And if you look at the calendar, last year at this time, I was in Santiago welcoming 100 of our clients to the start of their Chilean experience and the running of the Patagonia Marathon. So for me, this has been an interesting 12 months, and I think you can probably echo that, my friend.
Oh, most definitely. I go all the way back to running my first marathon in 1982. Just looking at all the changes since then. I was in the finish line area of the 2013 Boston Marathon when the bombs went off. So yeah, there's just been a lot of changes in the running community.
One thing we both know is it's a resilient community, and we will see the other side of this as well. Spend a minute and just for those that don't know you, although that's going to be maybe the minority of the folks, because you are very well known in the running community for many accomplishments and for giving back on many different levels. But give folks a little bit of your running credentials, if you would, if they don't know you.
Okay, well, like I said, I'm Tony Reed. I'm the co-founder and executive director of the National Black Marathoners Association. As I said earlier, I ran my first marathon in 1982, and I had an initial goal of running 50 marathons in one state. And I went on to complete that goal as well as one marathon in each of the 50 states. And thanks to Marathon Tours, I finished running marathons on all 7 continents. And in fact, I'm the first Black in the world to run marathons on all 7 continents. And my running clothes are actually with the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. And I've also completed now 131 marathons.
I think on the 7 continents run, you were one of the first 250. So not only the first Black marathoner, but one of the first 250 worldwide. We're up now to over 500 male finishers. We've had about 263, I believe, female finishers. So you've been a pioneer on many different levels within the global running community. And I think one of the other things you and I share, in addition to completing that goal, is our time in Texas. You're in Dallas, Texas these days, where I spent about 20 of my years. I think you've completed over 50 marathons in Texas alone, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I've completed now, I believe, about 57 here in Texas. And the majority of those was either the Dallas Marathon or the Fort Worth Cowtown Marathon. So since I live in Dallas, it's easy for me to kind of drive over to Fort Worth.
You're on the board of the Dallas Marathon Committee as well, aren't you?
Yes, as well as being on the board of directors for, I used to be on the board of directors for Running USA. So I'm somewhat fortunate in that I get to see running from different perspectives, from being that as a runner, being on the board of directors for a major race, and then being on the board of directors for an organization that focuses on the running industry and businesses in the running industry.
I think people can quickly understand why my comment a minute ago that I always find you to be a source of inspiration is not a stretch or an exaggeration. It's probably an understatement. Let's talk a little bit about one of the organizations that you helped co-found, you're on the board of, and that I've enjoyed a very warm welcome and relationship with, the National Black Marathoners Association. Talk to the group a little bit about the origins of that. So when was that founded? What was the catalyst? And where are we today? And then let's also talk a little bit about how somebody can get involved if they're new to running or we're not aware of the organization.
Okay. Well, the catalyst for the organization actually started at Information Technology Conference in Chicago in 2001. I happened to have been making a presentation there and mentioned that I had a goal of running 50 marathons before I turned 50. And Charlotte Simmons was in the audience. So we started talking. She was with the South Fulton Running Partners, which is the country's oldest African-American running club. And after a few years of just kind of talking back and forth about, would it be great if we can get together Black distance runners from all over the country? In 2004, we went ahead and started the National Black Marathoners Association. So we've been a nonprofit organization from the very beginning. It's been an all-volunteer organization. I like to say all of us work with it out of a sheer love for running. We're the largest organization of African-American men and women distance runners. And even though we have the word marathon in our name, we're open to runners of all distances. In fact, 60% of our members have never run a marathon and they never plan to run a marathon. So one of the things we do is we have annual summits where we meet up at a different location around the country every year. But in 2011, we started having international summits every other year. When I was running my international marathons with Marathon Tours, for the most part, I was the only African American on the trip. And a lot of our members of the Black Marathoners were watching me and they're always saying, hey, I'd love to do an international race, but I don't want to be the only Black on the group. So with that, we started having international summits every other year. So in 2011, we again used Marathon Tours and went to Bermuda and had a fantastic time. And it really kicked off, to me, the international running scene for African Americans. In 2017, we again used Marathon Tours for the Great Wall of China and scheduled to use it for the Rio Marathon. So it has been fantastic for me to sit back and just look at the growth of African American distance runners doing international trips. It's just been truly amazing.
I appreciate, on behalf of the organization, Marathon Tours, and we're in our 41st year. 40 robust years. This year's been a little bit of an exclamation mark with the number of events postponed or deferred to next year. But we, like your organization, is a community of runners. And demographically, we're so thankful that it has evolved in the way it has over the 40 years. All ages, all races, all religions. We're out there as runners exploring the world, as I said, one stride at a time. I happen to be with your group in China for the Great Wall Marathon. They earned the middle that year. It was, I think, about 105 degrees when we got back up on the wall for the second time on the wall, about 24 miles in. And they earned it, and we celebrated appropriately later that night. Great group. And we're looking forward to Rio when we resume travel as well. If I wanted to get involved as a member or a supporter, let's talk about that for a few minutes. And by involved, there's the membership piece. There's the conferences that you just mentioned. There's the social media, all sources of inspiration, all sources of expanding the community of runners out there that are not connected with you. Let's talk about that a little bit. What's the process involved in membership first?
Well, fortunately, our membership fee has not increased in 15 years. It's still free. Uh, what we do is we didn't want an entry fee to be a barrier to people joining our organization. And we have a couple of fundraising drives every year. Of course, our end of year fundraising drive, as well as one during Global Running Day. With the monies that are donated to the organization, we use that money to award college scholarships to African American distance runners. We initially just offered a scholarship for their freshman year, but as the growth of running occurred and as our membership increased, we started awarding scholarships now for all 4 years. And fortunately, we've been able to award over $50,000 in college scholarships. This year was very unusual, of course, with coronavirus and COVID-19, in that from talking with our scholarship recipients, we realized that they weren't able to get summer jobs, their parents weren't able to work. And so we reached out to our members and kind of said, well, listen, races are being canceled. Why don't you take the extra race fees and donate that to our scholarship fund so that we can turn around and truly help our scholarship recipients. And thanks to our members kind of stepping up, we were able to double the amount of money that we had awarded to the college students. And I remember one of the students sent me an email and saying, hey, well, this is great, but we've gone to online learning now and we don't have the money to buy computers. So again, I reached out to our members. And we have one of our members, Roosevelt Giles, is on the board of directors for the Atlanta Life Insurance Company. And he stepped up and said he will gladly donate the MacBooks to our students. And so he was able to do that. So again, we were able to help our students bridge the technology gap, this year. So, we love our members and we love the fact that they are a very giving organization. To donate, someone just go to our website, which is blackmarathoners.org. And on the home page there, we have a donation button. So you could just click that to make a tax-deductible donation.
Fantastic. And Roosevelt is somebody that I've traveled with frequently and completed a number of races together, which is easy to do. He's running every weekend 1 or 2 marathons. So you're gonna intersect with Roosevelt from time to time. I remember, I think the first time we spent some quality time together was in Berlin, and we were the first recipients of the Abbott World Marathon Major 6-star medal when they first started awarding that. Roosevelt, myself, and some others in our group, and to be able to celebrate post-race with that medal around our neck in Berlin, Germany. Was one of my many memories that I cherish. And Roosevelt and I continue to travel together and look forward to the next time he and I are on the same path running. And hopefully we have you there with us. So I want to jump over just off topic for 1 second, because you told me something the other day that surprised me. We're having a conversation here in conjunction with our virtual Boston experience this year. You've never run Boston. So with all of your accomplishments, with all of the giving back, the board you're on, the creation of the National Black Marathoners, and we're going to talk about a couple other things you're working on, you've never towed the line for Boston.
I never have. I was speaking at a conference several years ago, and someone asked me that question. I says, well, unfortunately, I have the body of a sprinter and the mentality of a distance runner. And I have a very low percentage of body fat. And the only way I was going to get fast enough to qualify for Boston was to lose muscle. And I opted not to lose muscle. I have my marathon PR is 3:36. And to run that at 6 feet tall and over 200 pounds was quite a bit. So this person said, well, I know someone who knows someone, and maybe we could get you an entry to the Boston Marathon. And I just really didn't believe it. And a few months later, she sent me this email and says, we've got an entry for you to the Boston Marathon. And I thought about it, and I realized that my stepdaughter would enjoy it so much more than I would. So I asked them if I could give the entry to her, and they said yes. So I think I got the Stepdad of the Century Award for giving a tour. And that was the 2013 Boston Marathon. So we were waiting for her in the finish line area when the explosions went off.
That's fantastic.
So,
Not
yeah,
surprising that you would do that at all. Fantastic though, and hopefully she enjoyed the experience as much as you think she was going to.
yeah, she, unfortunately, they stopped her at 25 and a half miles. So she ended up coming back in 2014 to run it.
Mm. Here. So back to National Black Marathoners, we didn't touch about social media. Your social media pages, Facebook especially, is one I would highly recommend to anyone interested in becoming connected with the community of runners. I find it as constantly a source of inspiration, celebration, motivation. You check all the boxes with that group. How can we get involved there? What's the requirement for membership there for that Facebook group?
There is no requirement for membership. All a person has to do is go to Facebook, and we have, I think, one or two questions that the person has to answer, and they can go ahead and be a part of our running community. The good thing about it is we have a lot of African American certified distance running coaches there. We have a lot of very experienced runners. So as people are taking up running, or they're thinking about running a marathon or half marathon, we have a lot of experts there that can help people get started and kind of help keep them from getting injured.
Well, you've obviously started something a few years ago that has grown, I would imagine, beyond your expectations. And I think we've only seen the tip of the iceberg back to our Antarctica days together. So let's shift gears in our last few minutes together. You've written a number of books, another way that you've inspired and given back. I believe you've got another one in the works.
Yes, it's an autobiography. It's called From the Road Race to the Rat Race, Essays from a Black Executive Marathoner. Uh, some people know me in a running community, but they know very little about me as far as corporate America. Since 1978, at every company I've worked in, I've either been the highest ranking Black in IT, if not in the entire company. So for the past 20 years, I was an IT executive, working on what I would call leading edge technology. And in the book, I talk about my experiences in corporate America and actually tie that to running marathons. There is a characteristic called a type T personality, which is a thrill seeker. And there are mental thrill seekers and physical thrill seekers. Marathoners are physical thrill seekers. Mental thrill seekers are your managers, executives, and entrepreneurs. And so I was borrowing a lot from running marathons and applying that in the corporate world. And we did things such as a $12 million IT project for $2.6 million, did 18-month projects in only 9 months, and had some fantastic results from kind of blending the two. In the book, I also talk about when I was a graduate student and had breakfast with President Gerald Ford with about 5 or 6 other students. It's a nice private breakfast with the president, and got an opportunity to ask him a bunch of questions about Keynesian economics to just about you name it. Had a private meeting with the U.S. Secretary of Energy, Hazel O'Leary, when she came down to Dallas. Even meeting with a gentleman who a couple of years later became U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. That was Alphonso Jackson. I was working with Alphonso Jackson and Lori Moon on constructing low-income housing in far north Dallas. So there's been this other side of my life that people in the running community just really didn't know anything about. And so like I said, I was managing multi-million-dollar international projects and teams for years. And
well, you and I have that in common in terms of the business application. And there was one thing I learned along the way was the importance of having an outlet like this and an interest And then with the global aspect of it, I definitely am of the opinion it extended my corporate career and made me a more productive colleague. The other thing I learned, though, is hiring thousands of people over my career. If you were a marathoner, if you were a swimmer, those were a couple of things I wanted to see in your interest, because I knew you were a safe bet. Those were some of the best hires I ever had. Those are the people who will get up and put in the miles or put in the laps when others will roll over and fluff up their pillow. So I look forward to that. When do you expect that out?
That's going to be out, the paperback in October. The ebook will be out later this month.
All right. So when we have the paperback out, you and I need to reconnect. One of the things we've been doing with a number of our trips is, like today, celebrating our friends and their accomplishments. And we've had the pleasure of having a number of our clients, Seven Continents Club members, Seven Continents Club finishers who have also written books, join us on trips and providing a little pre-race talk over pasta dinner and a personalized copy of the books for the participants. So we'll figure out where on our calendar you and I can meet up, and we'll have you come along and help host and provide some inspiration the night before the race, and part of that inspiration will be a copy of the book.
Okay, great.
All right, so we'll figure that one out. In the time remaining, let's talk about another one of your babies. This one's just getting off the ground. We've got a lot of common ground here with just having added Bermuda back to the calendar this last year. That was the only race that we were able to host this year so far. We've got one other on the calendar still remaining, so we've got to hope for a second race. But the Five Island Challenge.
Yes. Believe it or not, the concept for the Five Island Challenge actually started in 2006 during the Great Wall of China Marathon. Several of us were talking about what we were going to do after the 7 continents. And so one of the things we were talking about was, well, what if we ran marathons where they have the 7 wonders of the world? And then someone said, well, what if we ran marathons on the 7 continents, but we ran them all on islands? And so that really got me to thinking about, it'd be nice for there to be some type of race series where you would finish perhaps on white sand beaches, a little bit, how should I say, smaller groups than what you would find at the Abbott World Majors. And by then they had not started the Abbott World Majors. So last year, I was able to reach out to the race directors for the Bermuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Cayman Islands, and Reggae Marathons, and talked with them about organizing the Five Island Challenge. And unlike the Abbott Majors, there's a half marathon option with this also. And we also said that you can have what we call a combo-thon. You may perhaps start off running the marathons and you may party too much the night before and wake up and decide you want to do a half marathon. So we said, well, we'll make it so the person can do a combination of marathons or half marathons as long as they can complete them on all 5 islands. So it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot less expensive. And it's looking to be fun and low key.
Well, the time of the year that most of those races take place, Bermuda being in January, it's a good ramp up for what we hope will be the beginning of the recovery in 2021. So wish you well there. We'll see each other there. So we'll be crossing paths in Rio. We'll hopefully be seeing each other in Bermuda. Things will be getting back to a better new normal than what we're experiencing right now. But on behalf of Marathon Tours, our team that's enjoyed a relationship with you for so long, and the National Black Marathoners Association, I really appreciate you taking time today. I always enjoy spending time with you. I look forward to the next time being in person, and wish you well with your training. We're going to get you out to run Boston one of these years. At some point, you're going to age qualify. You're going to age up and you're going to qualify. But you pick the year, I'll run with you, okay?
Okay.
Because if there's a 6 foot strong guy that I can draft behind, I'm going to draft behind you.
Okay. Yeah, be sure to tell Tom Gilliam I said hello.
He sends his best to you too. I was talking to him just before you and I hopped on this call. So
Okay.
you got a lot of friends with Marathon Tours. Thank you, my friend. We'll see you soon,
Okay,
okay?
thank you. Okay, you take care.